Hello and welcome to Round 11 coverage of Grand Prix Atlanta here on Day 2. I'm Brian David Marshall, joined in the booth by Eduardo Sagic. Eduardo, Boggles versus The Rock. Marcelino Freeman, Grand Prix champion. Saul Malka, Grand Prix champion. Marcelino a little more recently, perhaps.
Perhaps.
There you see Saul using his BlackBerry to tell everyone he's in the feature match area.
Come on.
I'm teasing.
But yeah, Saul also drawing one of the key cards in this matchup in that Liliana of the Veil. The biggest defense that Marcelino has against Liliana of the Veil is that single copy of Dryad Arbor in the deck. Using one of the green fetch lands like Windswept Thief or Wooded Foothills, in response to the Liliana of the Veil, you can simply go, okay, I'm going to get a Dryad Arbor. That's the thing that's going to die to Liliana of the Veil. So it at least allows to avoid a turn-free Liliana to disrupt your plans. That said, often on turn 4 with a removal spell as backup, that can be just enough.
Here we see a Thoughtseize from Saul, and there is no fetch land in hand here for Marcelino.
I think this is an easy Daybreak Coronet here. Since Spirit Mantle, while useful, is already there and is the smallest boost, Daybreak Coronet would be an issue, especially with Tourism Canopies. So
and you certainly don't want to take Griff's Boon.
I would see a little utility in that at this moment. But yeah, Saul is very advantaged right now. Simply having that third land in that Liliana is already a huge edge. If Marcelino has no creatures, what's going to happen is Marcelino's going to have to discard a bunch of cards to the Liliana after the Gladecover Scout dies. So here really what Marcelino needs to be in this game is a creature. Any creature will do. But yeah, that Spirit Mantle, not a lot of pressure.
Number 2.
Yeah, the second one is a lot worse than the first one.
And again, the card Marcelino really wanted to see there was fetch land. A green fetch land that would protect him against this Liliana of the Veil, but he does not have it. And down goes the Gladecover Scout.
Oh yeah, that's a clean free for 1, and Liliana is still in play, so it's close to free for 0.
Wow.
Yeah. This looks really awful for Marcelino here. I mean, yeah, it's The Rock, right? Playing the best cards in the green-black colors. Liliana of the Veil certainly qualifies. Oh,
wow. And Marcelino has to sacrifice a Horizon Canopy to just dig for cards. There's that fetch land that he would have loved to have had last turn.
Yeah, here, the only thing Saul has to be careful about is like Dryad Arbor. Even though it's a counter to Liliana of the Veil, it's just also a creature you can get in some matchups, and there are some matchups where you just get a Dryad Arbor and suit it up.
Absolutely. Here we see Saul ticking up the Liliana of the Veil. Both players discard.
It was a Path to Exile and a Dark Confidant, I believe. Yeah, you don't really want the second one.
Yep, and one Dark Confidant does resolve for Saul, and here we go.
I think we're going to see the Dryad Arbor come down and Marcelino go like,
No, he's going to get a Temple Garden.
Okay. Trying to wonder the merits of getting Dryad Arbor versus Temple Garden here. Like, Temple Garden clearly helps with the mana, but then you're hoping to draw a creature, while Dryad Arbor, you hope your opponent has no removal. I guess with the Liliana 2, it's kind of rough, because any creature you play, will get killed by the Liliana, so I just don't think there's a good line here.
There's Collective Brutality off the top, so that's going to, Saul's life total is, something he's got to think about, and certainly the Dark Confidant represents a path to victory for Marcelino.
Sure, but the Collective Brutality helps a lot. And even then, if Marcelino was, if Saul was in real trouble from the life total, you could just Liliana sacrifice your own Dark Confidant. Maybe not the best line, but
there we see a Ghost Quarter. And Saul can really tax his opponent's basic lands in this format, right?
Yeah, there's free Ghost Quarters, free Assassin's Trophies. The advantage of being green-black is you have access to more cards like that. Interestingly, does not have access to the card Field of Ruin, which a lot of people have adopted over something like Ghost Quarter. I think Saul just wants the speed of Ghost Quarter.
Yeah, so Saul wins game 1 there. Marcelino's like, yeah, that wasn't really how I drew it up.
Well, game one is really disadvantaged for the Bogles players in this matchup. It's unless you have Leyline of Sanctity main deck, this matchup is like one of the worst ones you could face in the format. You get like what would be worse is like a non-interactive deck like Clark Klein Ironworks that doesn't care that you're shooting up some Bogles. They just go like, well, I'm gonna put some artifacts in the foundry and go to town. So whatever you're doing over there is irrelevant.
I'll just be over here smelting.
Exactly. But post board, there's a few cards that come in. Rest in Peace, not really great against the straight green-black decks. Like, you can get Tarmogoyf, but it's like you can play one Rest in Peace, but you're fighting the wrong fight most of the time. Nature's Claim doesn't do much. Stony Silence doesn't. Unflinching Courage can be useful to kind of race, and the Trample is good against a creature like Dark Confidant, so it's unlikely we see it, but we might. Galactic Teague also not great. Damping Sphere not great. The key card, 4 copies of Leyline of Sanctity. And if Marcelino, and I can't understate how important that card is, if Marcelino has that Leyline of Sanctity, all of this card doesn't work. Liliana cannot make Marcelino sacrifice a creature.
Think back to your Pro Tour top 8 at Pro Tour Return to Ravnica, which was a modern Pro Tour. And in the finals, you know, getting someone got a Leyline of Sanctity out against, I believe it was the finals, maybe it was the semifinals, against Yuya Watanabe.
Yeah,
and
it was a mulligan to, like, a no-lander with 2 Lotus Blooms and a Leyline of Sanctity, right?
Yeah.
Sifka's? Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, it just shuts off a huge swath of what these green-black mid-range decks are trying to do in Modern, whether it's, you know, Thoughtseize or, you know, Inquisition or Liliana.
Yeah, one of the things that's really helped these green-black decks, Assassin's Trophy. Before it was Abrupt Decay, and Abrupt Decay specifically can't get Leyline of Sanctity, and that was one of the big reasons why Leyline was so good. Your opponent, at best, had 1 or 2 Maelstrom Pulses, and that cost free mana at sorcery speed. Now with Assassin's Trophy, you can essentially get rid of that Leyline of Sanctity, and then on turn free play a Liliana or unleash a flurry of discard spells. But yeah, coming from Sol, the sideboard, Damnation. There are some Umbras, Hyena Umbra and Spider Umbra in Marcelina's deck that'll be key for it, but you still board it in because it's a non-targeted removal. You wouldn't board in more discard. Your package is fine. You don't want to void in duress. Fulminator Mage is kind of an interesting card because the Bogles deck doesn't have that much mana, but you're not trying to attack their mana base. That's not part of the game plan, but it does get rid of Dryad Arbor. So you can do something like play Mage and then have a Liliana and be certain that the Liliana will effectively get rid of the creature. But I'm not sure if that's really something you want. Golgari Charm, destroy target enchantment. Good enough. Let's go. Ghost Quarter can be okay if there's enough cards to board out. I don't think there's a matchup for it. Kalitas is a bit slow. Liliana Last Hope, again, not really the matchup for it. So I think we'll maybe see... I think that's kind of it. Like, most of the targeted removal that you're going to keep in Abrupt Decay and Assassin's Trophy deals with enchantment, but also deals with a core Spirit Dancer.
Wow. Marcelino did not like that opening hand. You saw his face.
At least Sol Malka also didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say Leyline of Sanctity is worth a lot of cards to Marcelino. Like, having that card in play is worth so much because it makes all these Thoughtseize as dead draws. It makes all these Inquisitions dead draws.
Collective Brutality becomes not quite a dead draw, but...
It's a card you board out anyways.
Yeah.
It does a lot of different things, and in this matchup, all those things are terrible. So it's a card you usually want to cut. Yeah, you have, like, better stuff to board in.
The big deal is preventing Liliana the Veil from making you sacrifice a creature with the Leyline.
Yes, that is the most important.
That's essentially what this comes down to.
It's also like getting a discard spell early in the game. Stopping a discard spell means that you can like actually make the creature immense, which is useful because sometimes you saw it in that game. If there wasn't a Liliana, well, let's think that scenario, right? Like no Liliana, then it's a free creature. I mean that's fine, but it's not. It takes a long time that Sol has to catch up. Oh
boy. Marcelino going down to 5.
Yeah, I don't want to move the advantage bar quite yet because even a 5-card hand with a Leyline, a land, a Bogle, and like 2 enchantments with the right draw could be powerful enough. So I kind of want to see what Marcelino's hand's going to be before making that call, although Sol is likely... It depends also what's in Sol's hand.
Saul has kept his 6.
But I think the way Saul's configured the deck, Saul is very favored in a matchup like this. Assassin's Trophy, Abrupt Decay, Liliana of the Veil, these are very powerful cards against the Bogles deck, and this is... I think it's likely that Marcelino's undefeated run ends here, but, you know, whatever. Just 10-1 would be an exceptional record anyways. I don't want to call it too early, right? But we're mulliganing to 5, and we're in a bad matchup. The expression on the face is great, though.
Yeah, all right. It's 5 Magic cards. I will keep it.
There's no ley line. I'm going to say that Saul is advantage. That looks like land. Okay. Saul is definitely slightly advantaged right now. Just having 2 extra cards and no ley line of Sanctity is already a big edge.
All right, well, there is the titular card of the deck here.
Sure. Verdant Catacombs? Sorry. Yes, the Slippery Bogle. This Portuguese descendant, I guess, based on the length of the name.
Yes. So this is going to could become very quickly about whether or not Saul has access to another Liliana of the Veil.
There's the Fulminator Mage, which is going to be much more key when Marcelino's mulliganed, since it'll avoid Dried Arbor value, or Marcelino won't draw many lands, and it will become very powerful at that point. One thing to note is, even if Saul just has a bunch of enchantment removal and Abrupt Decay Assassin's Trophy, the Bogle isn't an issue when it's a 2-2 or free-free. You have cards like Tarmogoyf, right? Like, that's going to dominate the battlefield. So it's really about the creature not being too much. Also, an enchantment in the graveyard boosts the Goyf so much.
Yeah. So Spider Umbra goes on the Bogle. And in it comes for 2. And that fetch land again represents the potential for a Dryad Arbor, which could foil
a potential
Liliana of the Veil. But it doesn't look like that's something that Saul has right now. He's going to lead with Fulminator Mage. Yeah. He's going to take out the actual non-fetch land here.
Yeah. And Saul doesn't attack here since Saul understands that swinging 2 damage each way is not the plan. The plan is to really run out Marcelino of resources, and then winning will come naturally. Really, the green-black mid-range deck, the strength of it, right, is that it can adapt its role to any matchup. So in some matchups it's the aggressor, and in some matchups it's the control role, and sometimes it's just a slugfest when it's a mid-range mirror. Here, the mid-range deck is for sure the control role. There's no question that given infinite cards in each deck that the green-black player will win and has inevitability.
All right, there's a Rancor.
So right now, Tarmogoyf at 2 free. So one thing that Saul could do here is block the Bogle. Now, by blocking the Bogle, only the Umbra would fall, but that might be an acceptable trade depending on what Saul has in hand. If Saul has a sacrifice outlet, then no, but yeah. By the way, that Fatal Push is kept because you can't really, there's too much spot removal, so it's hard to board out all of the pushes and all those type of cards. So usually you keep 1 or 2 in just in case your opponent has Core Spirit Dancer. Yeah, and you see that trade here with
and also a Dryad Arbor is something that you're going to want to get, as we pointed out with the Liliana.
Yeah, I think Saul is though well suited for Dryad Arbor. If you're going to board in Fulminator Mage, I think you should board out the Fatal Push.
There's an Inquisition of Kozilek. He says, what have you got going on here? And there is a Core Spirit Dancer in hand, which is a card that'll let him unmulligan very quickly.
Yeah, so because Saul has access to a I would take the enchantment here. The Path to Exile you don't mind on any of your creatures, really. And the Core Spirit Dancer, once Marcelino plays it, you have a Fatal Push.
There's Scavenging Ooze for Saul.
Yeah, that might get Path to Exile. Or Path to Exile, I guess. And then Saul has a Tireless Tracker. And any land with the Tireless Tracker would just be, yeah. Because that's the thing, right? Like here,
Tireless Tracker just feels like a Planeswalker in this format.
I mean, it's always felt like a Planeswalker.
Yeah.
I remember, like, in Standard, there were definitely mid-range matchups where whoever had Tireless Tracker advantage, just that was it. That was the matchup. Getting a Swamp here just because there's a lot of double black plus single black sequences you want, like Liliana of the Veil plus a single black spell.
Sol's down to 13 here.
But by the way, this Bogle is just a free one, so even playing a Tireless Tracker that can block is a big... I mean, you can trade for the Bogle, which maybe isn't its designed role in life, but it's good enough. Is that another Fulminator Mage? Oh, my.
Oh, boy.
That is a Fulminator Mage.
Yep. Welcome to the Stone Age, Marcelino. No lands for you. But Sol still needs to deal with this 3-1.
Yeah, that was... I mean, it's very tempting to put Marcelino to the Stone Age here, but you're not in a rush to do so, so I guess Sol did not have access to a creature in a land in hand, so that makes sense to not play Tracker in that scenario.
So land off the top.
Yeah. Spirit Mantle.
Means Spirit Mantle, which is just drawn, is going to create... Oh, boy, we're going to see Assassin's Trophy on the Spirit Mantle. I think we might see Dark Confidant block here.
Dark Confidant is blocking every day
here.
Worth pointing out that Marcelino's going to run into like one of the worst possible sequences because there's no choice really, where Sol is likely going to just play Tracker and pass, play a land or not. And Marcelino's going to be like, well, I have to catch up. Then plays Spirit Dancer with Rancor. We'll draw a card, but Sol will just Fatal Push that core Spirit Dancer, and that's going to probably be it. Depends what Marcelino draws. If Sol doesn't have a land, then that's... Oh, wait, is that a Scavenging Ooze? That would be really big right now.
See Sol doing a little graveyard check here.
I think the hardest line that Marcelino could take is not go for something like Spirit Dancer.
Well, this is Traverse the Overwalled.
Yeah. Just checking types. It's creature, instant, sorcery, lands.
That's what Sol was looking at.
Yeah.
He's going to get himself a Verdant Catacombs.
Oh, yes. Now we're talking. If you're talking about marginal value.
So now Tireless Tracker is going to come down.
Oh, yes.
Verdant Catacombs, sack it.
Yeah. You see a little shortcut where Sol is like, look, I'm going to reshuffle my deck. Yeah. Sol does this just in case Marcelino were to draw a Path to Exile. It's just a way to make sure that you get your second clue. With these two clues, Sol is going to be really far ahead. There is a line where Marcelino decides not to play Spirit Dancer Rancor, but I don't... That's
Boy,
the problem.
it's so hard to try to get back in this game.
Yeah, and Fatal Push would at least be slightly cut, so it's worth going.
And there's the Rancor attempt, but there's the Fatal Push, the last card out of hand.
You still draw a card, but
Marcelino will still get to draw, but you know what? That Rancor's also gone, which is
Sol
huge.
definitely knows that interaction. Sol has seen the interaction.
Rancor goes back to Sol's days.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, for those who don't know that interaction, Rancor, you know, when it goes to the graveyard from the battlefield, you return it to your hand, but there it was on the stack, so it just goes away. It never resolves. That's why it's in the graveyard.
All right.
Yeah, with an extra Abrupt Decay as well, this is...
I think he's got an extra Abrupt Decay and still another Fatal Push.
Yeah, I think with the Fatal Push, it might have been correct here to crack the second clue and try to get a land right away, since you probably won't need the Decay.
Well, there is another core Spirit Dancer. Are we going to see another Rancor here?
Well, we're going to see some 1-mana enchantment of some sort.
Okay, it's an Umbra, but there's another Fatal Push from Sol. Yeah. So Marcelino does get to get a card back, but...
Yeah. I guess Sol's line is, I'm so advantaged I don't need to crack this clue right away, which is a totally respectable line.
Let's see the advantage bar nudging over. There's a Bauble.
It looked like a spell. I think at this point, Sol should either Ghost Quarter his own land.
Draws a card off the Bauble, the old slow trip.
Yeah, without a creature, this is it. Marcelino hoping for that 7 drop.
Hoping for a split card.
That would be... I would definitely not play Dark Confidant if I had a 7 drop in my deck at this stage. Yeah, and Saul takes it down.
Wow. So Saul Malka remains undefeated, goes to 10-0-1 here with the Rock. This is a deck that goes back, again,
decades.
Nearly 20 years in Magic's history. And he's the person who really put that deck on the map. And it's still the way he's playing now.
Yeah, Eternal Magic is one of the most beautiful things, right? You get to see... Wait, but Saul didn't get to play with any. All these cards are new. They didn't exist back then. But wait, why isn't he playing Plague Lord? Isn't Plague Lord like in 9th or 8th edition or something? It's modern legal, I'm pretty sure.
Plague Lord is not what it once was. Damage on the stack was certainly the Plague Lord's friend.
That's true. That's true.
Damage on the stack was definitely the Plague Lord's friend. Okay, so we have some more undefeated Magic for you, and serendipitously, also some really cool decks that we haven't seen on camera. So don't go anywhere. We get a couple brief messages, and then when we come back, more Magic. All right, welcome back to round 11 coverage here at Grand Prix Atlanta. The format's modern, and we've got two undefeated players going on here. We've got Martin Juza, the Pro Tour Hall of Famer. He's playing Hollow One. That was a breakout deck from little Modern Pro Tour last season. And then we have Caleb Scherer, who is basically walks around with a cloud over his head.
Yes.
He is
Lightning bolts.
always Storm, Legacy, Modern. Just this is what he does. He beat Brad yesterday, and Brad tweeted about it. Like, well, what did I expect? You know, I'm playing this guy's format.
I'm in his wheel. I'm in his house. He did not let me forget it. Caleb, a man after my own heart. All about the unfair magic. Respect.
All right, so let's see two players trying to play some unfair magic. Let's head down to the feature match area. All right, welcome back to round 11 coverage here. Eduardo, tell me a little bit about what both of these decks are trying to do in the first couple turns of the game.
Sure. So the Hollow One deck is trying to cast this card, Burning Inquiry, and then get fortunate not to discard the namesake of the deck and just keep it in hand. But essentially, the Hollow One deck is kind of a graveyard synergy deck, but it combines with both Burning Inquiry and Goblin Lore, which draw you a bunch of cards and discard a bunch of cards. And the reason, while they're not card advantage, actually Burning Inquiry loses you a card. The important part is that Hollow One becomes free after casting either Burning Inquiry or Goblin Lore, so getting a 4/4 for 0. And also, that's the thing, you discard a card like Bloodghast.
And a Faithless Looting, so you see a little bit of graveyard synergy there for Martin.
Yeah. It combines that as well with cards like Tasigur, the Golden Fang, and Gurmag Angler to kind of use those extra cards in the graveyard and go and have a threat. And then Flamewake Phoenix also part of that engine.
No Hollow One there for Martin.
Right. That said, Burning Inquiry, not the best card against Storm. Storm is a combo deck that aims to get enough pieces, including one of the namesake creatures of the deck, Goblin Electromancer or Baral, Chief of Compliance, which makes all the spells cost 1 less. Desperate Ritual, Pyretic Ritual are like okay cards, but when they become Dark Ritual, that's when problems start. Basically, you're trying to combine this one of these creatures that discounts instant and sorceries to turn your deck from a modern deck to a legacy deck. And there's no Force of Will. That said, Lightning Bolt has a good Force of Will impression when you kill one of those creatures. So the Bolt going for the graveyard for Modern was actually pretty unfortunate. And again, the reason I mentioned Burning Inquiry is not at its best is Caleb's plan eventually revolves around playing a Past in Flames. So getting random cards in the graveyard usually plays in Caleb's favor.
Okay, here we see Goblin Lore now for Martin Juza on turn 2.
It seems here Martin didn't mention the Bloodghast trigger, so I mean, this is a time walk, so we can't say anything. We'll just see what happened. But yeah, essentially, of course, that Bloodghast would be in play with the Landfall trigger. But if it was missed, and that's kind of it. But yeah, here, this type of matchup, Game 1, tends to favor the Storm player. Combo decks like Storm tend to be favored in a lot of Game 1 since your opponent's not going to be exactly prepared. But unlike Storm in, say, Legacy or other formats, the level of card you need to fight Storm isn't specialized. You can have creature removal, you can go for graveyard interaction, hand disruption, stack disruption with spells. So you can really choose where you want to attack the Storm player.
So Martin did get to bring that Bloodghast into play.
Which is good. Right, so land and Burning Inquiries. Or Inquiries.
Scored some cards for the Resolve the Goblin Lore. Yeah. Let's see if now the Hollow One has arrived. Yeah. No?
Doesn't seem so. And the thing is, post-board, the Storm player has more trouble. Caleb is almost always going into board in pieces of the puzzle against a deck like Martin's that boards in Thoughtseize. A card that allows you to 2-for-1 get mild graveyard interaction, kind of both fight graveyard hates. Not the one that Martin's bringing. It would fight something like a Relic of Progenitus or Tormod Script, but it won't fight something like a Leyline of the Void if Martin decides to bring that in. I would say overall that Caleb is slightly favored in the matchup, but it tends to be close. It's definitely a lot less close when Martin has failed to put pressure so far. A 2-1 Bloodghast on turn 2 is certainly under what this deck is trying to achieve.
Then you see the Baral did come down for Caleb on turn 2.
I mean, if this Baral lives, Caleb's probably got the goods to take this down. This is a free attack. There's not really much that deals exactly 1 damage, so could block. decided not to. But normally, when Caleb's not blocking here, it's not because Caleb doesn't believe that there's no way for the Baral to die. It's just I'm like 99% confident about this, but the thing is, I'm just going to win the game next turn, so I don't really care about taking 2 damage here. It's not relevant to what I'm trying to accomplish.
2 Flame Blade Adepts and another Blood Gas there for Martin.
Okay, it seems like Caleb is lacking some kind of card advantage engine. Something like a Past in Flames might be good enough to just start to use that Sleight of Hand and Serum Visions and try to get to something else. But there's no Gifts Ungiven. Gifts Ungiven being one of the key cards in this Storm deck, since you can get Past in Flames plus free cards of your desire.
So here we see a Tasigur coming down, delved for 5.
This will get back that Flamewake Phoenix and start the pressure. I think Caleb here will likely block a Blood Gas. But yeah, that Goblin Lore in Martin's hand is going to be a metric ton of damage. Those Flame Blade decks are going to get plus free attack from each of the Goblin Lores. So here, that's going to be a ton of damage. Martin's, I think, just considering whether to play the land or not. Which I believe is correct, because you want to make sure you have the mana for the Flamewake Phoenix.
Which he discarded to the Faithless Looting.
Yeah. So here, if the Phoenix comes back, these Flame Blade Adepts are going to be 4 power, 8 power, Menace, plus the Phoenix is 10. So that would put Caleb down to 8. Then whether you block the Blood Gas or not is not too relevant. So basically, Caleb has to go off the upcoming turn. Doesn't have the tools to do so. This is going to come down really to Caleb's next draw step.
All right, which card can I keep?
That Lightning Bolt would have been
that would have been
amazing.
Sweet.
I mean, Caleb hasn't ever Baral, but it still would have been like, essentially it would have been a Spell Pierce, taxing 2 mana from Caleb. Yeah, so here you block the Blood Gas. That's 8, 10, 12. Yeah, so Caleb is kind of forced to go off, but doesn't have the tools to do so. So needs to draw the right tool, and that is an opt. So we're maybe getting places. This card has to be really good, though. Caleb doesn't have infinite blue mana, and there's no time, so this has to be... Yeah, Manamorphose you keep.
Manamorphose.
Yeah, I mean, it cycles anyway, so you'd rather have a random card plus Manamorphose generating mana.
So there's a Pyretic Ritual.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, those cost 1.
Yeah.
Manamorphose costs 1, makes 2, draws a card.
This card has to be Past in Flames, Gifts Ungiven, something of that ilk.
You see them keeping track of what mana Caleb has in his mana pool.
Manamorphose is great here just because it's blue mana, so any cantrip would still be good game.
The white die is the Storm count.
Yeah. I'm not too concerned about the Storm count. I think if Caleb draws the right cards, the Storm count will be more than sufficient. So that's not a keep. And that's not a keep. That's it. That's Caleb done.
Wow. Okay. Go to game 2. Not an incredibly explosive draw from Martin on the hollow one, showing you that, you don't need to just put 2 4/4s in play on turn 1 to win with this deck.
Right, but I think this was more a story of the Storm deck failing to go off rather than the Hollow One deck kind of doing its thing.
Right.
Like, the Hollow One deck just put some pressure. It was a bit late, so it was a turn or 2 late, but Caleb couldn't muster the cards required to win the game. There was no Gifts Ungiven, no Past the Flames, nothing that allowed to really pull ahead there.
So turn 1 Serum Visions for Caleb. You talked a little bit about that idea of, not enough blue mana, not enough red mana. It's just very interesting to see someone playing a Pain Land here in Modern.
Yeah, so there's 2 schools of thought on that. There's a school of thought that believes Storm should play no fetch lands. It's a combination of essentially not wanting to take too much damage, because those Pain Lands do give damage, but it's probably less still than fetch shocking overall. And the idea is then as well, I think that's the main idea. It's more like a damage thing. But then the fetch land version thins your deck a bit, which normally I don't talk about deck thinning with fetch lands because it's not a relevant amount. But in Storm it can be. Like even 2 or 3 cards when you're looking at that emoji does matter. It means you can't play Blood Moon. And it also means that sometimes it can be harder to fight Blood Moon, although you don't really care about that card, in all honesty. Personally, I am more a fan of the fetch land version.
Okay.
I know, like, you take a bit more damage, but and like you have more dual lands by playing the non-fetch version, as you see with Shivan Reef, the Spire Bluff Canal, and 4 Steam Vents. But I still prefer the fetch land version. Like, I think the deck thinning does actually add up over a large number of games.
And I think we're going to see 2 hollow ones here.
It's a 1 mana 4/4. It's
1
good.
mana 4/4s as Street Wraiths get cycled, and each one of those reduces the cost by 2 on the hollow one.
Yeah, Lightning Bolt not exactly the best answer to Hollow 1 or Hollow 2.
All right, cycles of Manamorphose here, and again, you talked about that idea. Sometimes you want to store some cards up in your graveyard with these Storm decks. Oh,
Yeah.
well, no. You know what? Maybe.
This is a value Manamorphose. The thing is, yeah, Caleb is just going to go for a bunch of Empty the Warrens tokens, it seems.
Okay.
And then, like, try to finish off Martin with Lightning Bolts. This is 8 Goblins. Like, that might...
Wow.
Yeah. You get this a lot more post-board. Like, between Disruption and... I mean, here it was, like, more Caleb's draw didn't allow it. But, like, between Disruption and other issues, like, it's more often that you need to storm for smaller amounts. And Graveshot doesn't really do the job when it only deals, like, say, 4 or 5 damage. However, 8 Goblins, that's often good enough.
Yeah, that's what those dice represent. I'm sure we'll get some Goblin tokens coming over.
Yeah, but Martin cycled 2 Street Wraiths, and then, yeah, that was a lot of damage. There's also another Street Wraith in hand. So Martin might be quite conservative with that one. I think we might see one of the most rare plays from the Hollow One deck, which is Flame Wake Phoenix post-combat. Just to block for a turn. But it's kind of, Martin's position is really tough here. But Martin decides, I am the aggressive player. Martin could have decided to be the defensive or the aggressive player and decided to be the aggressive player in this scenario.
Caleb is not going to block here.
No, then there's no reason to block. You can take the damage here.
Well,
and then,
if Martin has nothing, right, Caleb can, I believe, does he have 2 Lightning Bolts?
yeah, but, but like, obviously Martin would have something. And the other problem is Martin has a Lightning Bolt in hand, so the plan with 2 Hollow Ones is that. I think here, though, Caleb's plan is to attack with a number of Goblins, but still have at least 1 to block a Hollow One. So this is what Caleb's considering, is how can I present a 2-turn clock and yet kill Martin? I think 2 Goblins have to stay back, since a single Lightning Bolt would be enough. Yeah.
He's going to keep 3 Goblins back.
Yeah, the plan from Caleb is to have this hybrid of being able to burn out Martin or be able to kill these Hollow Ones by blocking each with a Goblin and then going Bolt. But those Shivan Reefs are going to quickly put Caleb
I was
to the
just
test.
thinking about that. Boy, he really finds himself with, it's like, you know, you watch the painter painting on the floor and suddenly you find yourself in the corner.
Yeah.
All right, well, here comes everybody.
I think here, yeah, this is an okay block. You could, like, block just one, but I think with the Shivan Reefs, that's taking too much of a risk. So I like blocking both here. Martin's passing, so this is Caleb basically going to put Martin to 5 and then double bolting Martin. Martin's probably not expecting double Lightning Bolt.
Wow.
And Martin has double Lightning Bolt in hand. I mean, Martin can
This
win
is
the game.
very
Oh, wow.
close.
If Martin double bolts here by killing 2 Goblins, then Martin would win the game next turn. So this, I mean, Martin has the tools to win the game, but this is such an unusual spot. You'd have to put Caleb on exactly 2 Lightning Bolts. Otherwise, bolting 2 Goblins doesn't make much sense.
But what happens when Caleb goes to 6 to cast that second Lightning Bolt?
Oh, then, yeah, Caleb is dead. So that's a much easier line. I like that one. The power of Shivan Reef. Yeah.
Wow, Martin is in the tank here. Is he going to bolt a Goblin token?
Bolting 1 token would be the worst outcome. Because then you still die to double bolt.
Well, here we go. Caleb goes to 7. Bolt you.
But
Goes to 6. Bolt you.
in response,
But that's on the stack. Bolt you
bolt
twice. Wow!
Shivan Reef pulling its weight once again.
So we talked at the beginning of that match about the fetch lane version versus the pain lane version, and obviously, you know, you don't want to get results oriented, but it was kind of interesting to see the predicament you can be put in with the pain lane version.
Yeah, that was a perfect example. I mean, the hand where you have double Shivan Reef, I mean, that's something you signed up for.
Great job by Martin. Goes 11-0 and manages to just squeak that one out there.
Yeah.
We have more Magic, Eduardo. We're
Excellent.
not done. So let's head back down to the feature match area. Let's watch some more Magic this round. And we have James Bozek with Humans, and he's playing against Quinn Kotecki, and Quinn is playing Runaway Red, a deck that we saw a little bit around yesterday, but didn't get a chance to watch much of, and this is one of the new decks.
That is a choice mountain. That Invasion mountain, I love the art from the Invasion set. It's very iconic to me. You know, also that like Palm Tree Island. Oh, speaking of like Invasion block cards.
Oh, there's a Meddling Mage.
To Chris Pacula's delight.
What are you going to name there?
Not Lightning Bolt, apparently.
Yeah, not Lightning Bolt, but it gets bolted immediately.
Yeah. If I don't know what I'm facing, I guess Lightning Bolt would be the card I would name, actually.
Here's
because you see
Metamorphose.
Mountain Stomping Ground. I mean, you could name a Valakut style card.
Metamorphose.
Yeah, at this point, I'm either thinking my opponent's on some weird Storm deck.
It looks like he was just looking for his third land there.
He's also digging, I believe this list...
There's a Monastery Swift Spear. There's a Tormenting Voice.
4 Arclight Phoenixes, so that's... Yes, there we go. That's the first spell, too. So the Phoenix is going to come back, and this is going to be 5 damage.
Look at this.
There we go. Creatures are more important than lands. You've heard it here.
In for 5.
That was a sweet turn. Oh, wow. That is like one of the coolest cards. Insult Injury.
Yeah. Single copy, but...
That is a sweet addition to the deck.
Well, here's Reflector Mage.
Yep, back to your hand. Got to do all the work of putting it to the graveyard. It's kind of tough on Arclight Phoenix, like whether you want to return it to the hand or not, since the Runaway Red deck will be engineered to put that card in the graveyard. So it's kind of tough to know if you're supposed to bounce something like the Monastery Swift Spear that for sure at least will have a turn off, or the Arclight Phoenix. I mean,
interesting, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, because I think if Quinn gets to replay that Arclight from the graveyard, the game is kind of done. You don't get to cast it. That is not... No.
Yep.
Reflector Mage isn't in Modern because it's a fair card. Fiery Temper, hard cast. There are no bad Lightning Bolts. So that was a good outcome for James. When James played this Reflector Mage, that was kind of the goal, like hoping that Quinn would not be able to replay that Phoenix. But yeah, these 2 Horizon Canopies against a deck that is essentially acting like a burn deck, they are doing a lot of work for Quinn.
Wow, and Thalia's Lieutenant just sort of naked on the board.
That is horrible.
And now we see 2 Arclight Phoenixes in hand.
Yeah, I mean, Quinn is so far ahead that just hard casting Arclight Phoenix is good enough.
Yeah, his opponent's at 9 right now.
Yeah, and James can't really play the Mantis Rider in hand. 2 Horizon Canopy is not exactly what you need in that spot. Yeah, that's a lot of lands for Quinn, though. That deck does not play that many lands, so that is... Wow. Yeah, I mean...
He's going to play Bedlam Reveler. He's going to discard those 2 Arclight Phoenixes. Going to draw 3 new cards here.
Risk Factor? What is this Stender? Wait. Stender was next weekend.
I know.
What did you sign me up for here?
I'm sorry, man. He's got Risk Factor and Runaway Steamkin in hand here.
Yeah, I would have preferred a bunch of spells, but I think we'll take it. That is, wow.
He's going to get to draw a bunch of spells off that Risk Factor.
Yeah, that's probably true. Oh, wow, with the Steamkin, the namesake of the deck. Yeah, and James, James's hand has been horrific. I mean, oh wait, is that a collected company?
He does have a collected company in hand.
There's also a Tajik Legion's Edge. Okay, James, you got some sweetness there. I don't know if I agree with having a Tajik over a Mantis Rider. I think like there are a lot of free drops.
He
in the
still
list.
has Mantis Riders in the deck. But
oh, okay. So this is a so this version of the Humans deck is playing for collected company. essentially trying to get value from the free drops. I still feel like 4 Mantis Rider is like the way to go. That card is so good.
All right, here's a second Thalia's Lieutenant.
Yeah, but I like the Thalia Heretic Kafar. The inclusion of that card seems actually pretty strong.
They say hello to each other.
Hi, how's it going? Actually, only one says hello.
Well,
hello, hello. Just echoes. Hello, hello, hello.
and now the Lieutenant is quickly a 4/4 here.
Yeah, but it's on blocking duty, unfortunately, when you're at 6.
Yeah.
And that can't feel good against a Bedlam Reveler. This risk factor is going to feel... Oh, Manamorphose.
Oh, boy, Manamorphose.
Yeah, might as well start with a Monastery Swift Spear. So, Manamorphose, I mean, this is... As long as Quinn draws a spell in the next cards. Actually, yeah, a spell. Not even like...
Well, he's got risk factor.
Oh, another Arclight Phoenix? Yeah, that sounds great. Oh, yeah, the Runaway Steamkin would go to the exact free counter. I mean, this turn is going to be beautiful. Like, Quinn's got this. Risk factor.
Risk factor.
What would you prefer? I guess it doesn't matter. I guess you can have some cards.
Yeah, draw.
And then
there's Faithless Looting and a Lava Spike.
Then we add some mana. Yeah, play some 1-drops. That's a good one. It has haste. It's okay. It can be in the same pile of attacking.
Well, he's trying to keep his power
the
triggers lined up.
I mean, at this point, we're just playing with our food.
There's a Lava Spike.
Sure. I mean, James is just sticking around just to, like, kind of see all this. Like, oh, so I'm dead. I'm still dead. Okay.
Yeah, I'm very, very, very dead.
But I kind of like the spectacle of this. Like, how much damage would this actually... Yeah, James has enough. He's like, okay, this is fine.
He's like, I've got to do the runaway here. I've really got to...
I appreciate it. James, I appreciate that you didn't concede right away, so we got to see that the sweetness that on offer.
Right. Good start here for James, champion of the parish.
Post-sideboard, though, James has 2 very powerful sideboard cards for this matchup. 4 Knight of Autumn, very key. Just the stats and the life gain options are very important. 2 Rest in Peace, also great against this Runaway Red deck. Runaway Red, 2 Blood Moon. That's going to be important against the Humans deck's mana base. A Braid comes in. You know, kills a creature, can sometimes get a Vial. 2 Lightning Axe. But those free Anger of the Gods are really going to be what Quinn wants.
Okay, so a lot of sideboard action for him.
Yeah. Anger of the Gods is kind of a weird one to see. You know, it's like an aggressive combo-ish style burn deck, and you have Anger of the Gods in a deck with Arclight Phoenix. So maybe I maybe would have liked to see something like Sweltering Suns instead of Anger, because like I can certainly, unless your plan is to always board out Arclight Phoenix when you're boarding in Anger, in that case like Anger is better. But if your plan is to still have an Arclight Phoenix, I kind of like Sweltering Sun, because you can Sweltering Sun and there's like 1 or 2 other spells, your Phoenix still comes back. So I kind of like, and you can cycle in some like really dire straits. So I think in that spot, like from a deck building standpoint, that might be preferable. I know Anger of the Gods is more powerful.
Champion of the parish for James to open up. Gets in for 2. And Quinn really showed us the power of this deck game 1. Let's see what he can do here.
There's a lot of power in hand, but saw a lot of spells.
Well, Manamorphose.
Yeah, there was also Desperate Ritual. There's Bedlam Reveler, Arclight Phoenix. I think I saw a Fiery Temper. Let's see, actually. Is this enough to do a Bedlam Reveler?
Oh my gosh, really?
I think we're likely one off unless there's another free spell or... Wrong one.
Yeah. He's going to Lightning Axe.
Okay.
Discarding the Arclight Phoenix.
Okay, still has access to 2 mana, which is definitely not enough for Bedlam Reveler. Okay, so that was the line. It was like, do I Lightning Axe with Fiery Temper? Seems like just getting that Arclight Phoenix in play was more Quinn's priority. So that was what the ritual was for, was just to cast that extra spell.
And gets to have a huge swing here.
Yeah, there is definitely a consideration. I don't know how urgent it was to get this Arclight Phoenix in play. I would have been very tempted to go Lightning Axe, Fiery Temper if there was indeed a Fiery Temper in Quinn's hand, which I can't guarantee because obviously, like, from this view, is very hard to see.
Looks like there is a Rest in Peace in hand for James.
Yeah. Very hard to cast, though. I guess, oh, wow, Reflecting Pool. That's a smart piece of land technology right there. I mean, Unclaimed Territory could add any color. Yeah, Faithless Looting is amazing in these Bedlam Reveler decks. Mountain and some other spell.
I think it was Anger of the Gods.
Anger? Oh, that's a great spell to play here. Yeah, it didn't seem like there was a Fiery Temper in Quinn's hand. It looks like Fiery Temper and Bedlam Reveler have very similar backgrounds, so Arclight Phoenix for sure. You know when they discard Bedlam Reveler that they have one in hand. It's just a fact. Just a straight down fact. Like when my opponent
What could he have?
When my opponent discards Bedlam Reveler like this in the mid game, I'm like, okay, they have one in hand. I just note it down. It's just all like clear. Or they're winning the game that turn. It's a combination of things.
No fourth land there for Quinn.
Yeah, that Monastery Swiftbeard doesn't have a +1/+1.
I guess that was.
Yeah. Rest in Peace is going to be really strong here. I don't really see much of a reason not to play it now. Like, your opponent has a Bedlam Reveler most likely in hand. That Arclight Phoenix is gone. And the red deck can't really deal with the card Rest in Peace. Yeah, Rest in Peace and Thalia seems really strong. Yeah, so...
Yeah, that's what he's trying to figure out. He's like, what sequence
that
are
is,
doing here?
Well, if you're doing Thalia here, you're not doing Rest in Peace after. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
No.
This is Time Walk. We can't do anything about it.
Please, somebody notice. No.
We can assume that he's...
No, this is painful.
Sequenced it differently.
Painful.
Oh, well.
This is so painful.
That is the incorrect sequencing.
Yeah, that is not...
He certainly could have played it the other way.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so, like... Yes. Please, if you play Father Guardian of Fairy, but notice that it impacts your own spells. I've seen this so often. It's not James only. I've seen it across so many games of Magic. Like I've seen Eldrazi Tron players play like Expedition Map for Chalice on 1. Okay, that's Swiftspear's dead.
Well, that's because we're going to see an Anger of the Gods here.
But now we're going to see Thalia say that that's not possible.
He's like, okay.
Just didn't have text.
I'll play my land.
Yeah. At least, like, Quinn would have been incentivized anyways to play this Anger, and James could have played Rest in Peace. But, yeah, it would have been... Anyways, moving on. Moving on swiftly.
All right, both players... Can we find some reach here to deal these last few points of damage? And a couple Thalia's Lieutenants are a good start here for James Bozek.
Yeah, it makes any of James's top decks really powerful, and that Horizon Canopy helps that out. Yeah, that Bedlam Reveler in Quinn's hand is slightly off.
Not really reveling. You're going to need to pay one more. Oh, no, the
Thalia's gone. It's gone.
Now.
Thankfully, it's gone. Yeah.
Right, looks like he's got a tormenting voice here.
Yeah, thankfully, nothing that happened that couldn't have happened. Yeah, I mean, the question is, do you discard the 5th land, which has almost no utility, or do you discard this Bedlam Reveler that you might get 8 mana for? Quinn is quite a hopeful gentleman.
Weirder things have happened.
Yeah, I think at this point you just... to be fair, Quinn doesn't know that James is running Collected Company. Most human decks don't, so
right.
Quinn could have waited here. Just because there probably wouldn't be a human with Flash. But I like the heads-up play of doing it sorcery speed. Even if you don't know about Collected Company, like, you are definitely killing this Thalia's Lieutenant. There's no reason why you wouldn't. Even if your opponent top decks, like, say, Mantis Rider. It's not going to be a more attractive target than something that's going to be kind of a 4/4. Oh, okay. Well, it feels like you could kill it right away. Damping Sphere. I guess it stops the storm potential of the deck, but...
Here we see James is going to cycle a Horizon Canopy here.
Yeah. So... I like the Rest in Peace a lot because it also hits Bedlam Reveler on top of the Phoenix. I'm less of a fan of something like Damping Sphere. Sure, it makes it harder for Quinn to chain some spells, but the amount of spells required to change it is just free. So I could easily see a world where Quinn chains free spells to get the effects, or like just cast some Bedlam Reveler.
All right, there's Fiery Temper, takes down the larger of the 2,000 Lieutenant. Damping Sphere comes down, and now we just have a 1/1 to deal with if we're in Quinn's seat.
There's an Abrade in hand. this point, the win conditions are Runaway Steamkin, which would be one of the better draws and still require time, as well as hardcasting a good old arc like Phoenix. It's good enough. I mean, it's basically a better than Scarlight Legionnaire card, right?
Quinn's going to take 1.
Yeah, Quinn keeping that Abrade for something more menacing. And yeah, like James is just flooding out a bit.
There's a Runaway Steamkin.
I really like Quinn's patience here, trying to wait for Runaway Steamkin to get more value out of these spells in hand. Yeah. Oh, Seagram Quest. Ooh, James is flooding horribly.
Wow, more land there for James.
So here there's a question as to, I think I would be tempted to Abrade this Freeman Inspector. You could also Fiery Temper James, but I think with the amount of mana you have, like it's okay to just use up the Abrade here. You could also untap. I think that's a totally...
That's what. Oh, there's a Lightning Bolt.
Let's see. We Abrade the Folly's Lieutenant. We could attack too. Like, that's free. Let's see. Can we Fiery Temper Lightning Bolt? We're 1 off lethal, right?
There's Lightning Bolt.
Yep. This is okay. Basically, James is down to die into any top deck burn spell. You could play the Abrade here, but then you're not able to Fiery Temper something like a Mantis Rider. And I like waiting just in case your opponent draws like a Reflector Mage.
And oh, there's a Mantis Rider.
Yeah, so that's
so Quinn's patience is going to get paid off here.
I think Quinn was totally right to be patient. You could have abraded the Inspector for damage, but if you're going to Lightning Bolt James, then that's another line. Like I probably would have abraded and attacked, but I think this line is totally fine. Like to be patient and just abrade. Like now, like the Lieutenant attacking is essentially as if it had hit a removal spell. So yeah, I like Quinn's patience here. I think there were alternative lines, but I really like this one though.
And this is going to be the win for him.
Yeah, I mean, Rest in Peace is a powerful card against this deck, but it's still a bunch of cycling cards and direct damage.
All right, nice. Great sportsmanship there.
Yeah, that was nice.
The GG fist bump.
Even the humans list was kind of teched out, right? Collected Companies and Tajik. We didn't see the Tajik in the Folly's Heretic Kafar, but I like both decks had their merits. But it was great to finally see that Runaway Steamkin deck in action.
Right, and it's certainly a combo deck, but like you said, it still can function just like a burn deck.
It felt more like it felt more like a burn deck with like a combo-ish element to it. So like Rest in Peace hits it hard, but it's not like lights out, right? Which is good.
Lava Spike still capable of winning without any other combo pieces going on.
Yeah, what are you at? Dead.
All right, well, that's it for our Magic this round, but we've got Paulo and Marshall coming back in. We got more Magic coming up. Don't go anywhere. Grand Prix Atlanta rumbles on towards the top 8.